Here with a nightly story from our Miracles Do Happen book. The night story is by Gary Haney, and the title of it is called Sweetie. By the gurgling spring and weeping cherry tree, I spread a shovel full of dirt on the grave that sheltered my precious dog Lucy. Then I placed a big rock on top of it. That way when I returned to my friend's farm, I could go straight to the place. When a man buries his heart, he wants to know where he can find it. Some folks say a man shouldn't get so attached to a dog. Certainly not an ex-Navy man like me. But they didn't know my Lucy. My wife Carla and I got Lucy as a pup, and we never did know what kind of dog she was. She was larger than a lab, with the biggest brown eyes you ever saw, and fuzzy white hair. When she'd wade in the Greenbrier River up in the West Virginia mountains, where we have a cabin, she looked like a big polar bear. That was all before the tumor on Lucy's leg. Now she was gone. Never again would we walk along the flood wall or go for rides in my van. Until the final beat of her heart, that dog was all mine. The last thing she did on earth was look at me soulfully, as if to say, "I know you're taking good care of me, Gary." But ever since Lucy went to heaven, I didn't want to live anymore. That's another thing people didn't understand. I mean, a man doesn't have a more devoted wife than my Carla, and my daughter Ashley was the best teenager a father could hope for. Still, something deep inside of me snapped when Lucy took her last breath. That's exactly how I was with Dottie. I didn't think I was ever going to get over losing her. It took months. I just recently stopped sleeping with her ashes, because I slept with her ashes every single night. I wanted to die too, because I didn't know life without her. I couldn't remember life without her. Just like he's saying. Something snapped when Lucy took her last breath. All the memories of Vietnam that I had worked hard to hold back came crashing down on me when she died. I'd lie in bed and not even hear TV playing. I was so far gone. I had to be reminded to shower, to eat. Not even Carla's Cajun pasta could lure me to the family dinner table. As the same way I wouldn't eat either, in a deep, deep depression. Carla, who worked at the Veterans Hospital, said she was sure my severe depression was due to the war. "Please let me take you to the hospital and get you some help," she pleaded. "I'll go when we get back from the fair," I finally agreed. Going to the West Virginia State Fair was an annual tradition for our family. I didn't know how I would endure it this year, though. For the past few years, all I had been able to do is to tell myself to breathe, to sit in my recliner by our big picture window and watch the trains roll by. What happened to the man who used to enjoy life? The one who took so much pleasure in his family, in helping people? Now the guy everyone once said was so generous could barely survive, let alone look out for his fellow man. Somehow I managed to drive the 4-hour trek to Lewisburg, where the fair is held. We needed groceries for our cabin, so we went to Walmart as soon as we got into town. At the entrance was a bulletin board with pictures of dogs the local pound had up for adoption. A Chihuahua Dachshund mix caught my eye. "No, make that," spoke to my heart. "If you'll take me in, I'll be the very best dog you ever did see," it seemed to say. All the way back to the cabin, I could not get that dog off my mind. Neither could Carla. "You need to call the pound," I told her. "You need to call them," she countered. Deep down, I longed for the unconditional love of a dog in my life again, but no one could replace Lucy. It was almost 5 p.m. when I finally made the call. "Oh, you're talking about Sweetie," a lady with a kind voice said when I described the dog in the photograph. "We close at 5, and we're way out in the country," the lady continued. "But if you want to come and see her today, I'll stay open and wait for you. That's one special canine. She was so accommodating there. There was almost an urgency about her. On this Tuesday evening, the Lewisburg Humane Society was deserted except for a lady with salt and pepper hair. Cages lined both sides of the dingy gray walls. Dogs of every description pressed their paws against the metal and howled in mournful look at me. Unison when they spotted Carla and me, all the dogs except for one, that is, a dog with the saddest face I had ever seen. The mirror image of my own sad face, in fact. I nudged Carla. "Look at that pitiful one," I said. "Doesn't even have the wherewithal to bark." About that time, the lady joined us. "Oh, you're admiring our little sweetie," she said. "That's what we call her around here." The lady's brown eyes dropped to the floor. "That sweetie's a sad case. Someone dropped her off back in May because of a problem with her leg. But she's one of the older ones, and no one has taken her home. People say she looks like a pot-bellied pig." The lady spoke in a whisper, even though we were the only ones there. "If Sweetie's not adopted by Thursday, I'm afraid we'll have to put her to sleep." I took a second longer look at the dog. She seemed so forlorn, as if she knew her days were numbered. "Did you say Thursday?" I managed to get out. "That's the day after tomorrow." Suddenly, Sweetie became more covered than vintage porcelain. We'll take her, Carla said, and I sang out in unison as the woman circled us in a grateful hug. As we drove up to West Virginia State Fair, all I could think about was having a dog in my life again. When Carla and I approached the animal stalls and caught sight of caretakers grooming the sheep, Carla said, "Just think, Gary, when we get home we can brush Sweetie's coat. Won't that be great?" But depression was already getting its hold on me again. Not even the baked steak, peas, and corn at the cafeteria could cheer me. And seeing Ashley ride the Ferris wheel didn't make me smile either. I forced myself to go with Carla to see Alison Krauss and Unison Station perform. But my heart wasn't even into good bluegrass music. I could tell Carla was worried, but I couldn't help myself. I was sinking deeper and deeper into despair. When we get home, I'll see that therapist at the VA I promised. Back at our cabin, Sweetie didn't damage a single thing. When Carla and I went to bed for the evening, Sweetie found a comfortable spot at the side of my bed, and I began to stroke her ears. "I'm glad you came home with us," I told her. And then in that silent language between dog and master, I added, "I need you." Sweetie planted a big, old, slobbery kiss on my hand and stayed right there the rest of the night. Once at home, I kept my promise to Carla about seeing that therapist at the VA hospital. Jim was his name, and he was delighted that I had found myself a good dog. "I can't up what a pet will do for you, Mr. Haney," he said. "I just want you to take good care of that Sweetie." The minute we got home from the VA, I retreated to my recliner, but Carla would have none of it. She handed me Sweetie's leash. "The two of you need to get out of the house," she said. So she took a nice little walk past the train. It felt refreshing to get exercise, and it even lifted my depression a little. In the ensuing days, I learned that Sweetie loved hot dogs, so every now and then I'd give her one as a treat. When I did, I'd eat an apple or a pear myself as part of our little ritual. One day, then Sweetie and I were walking down by the flood wall. I admitted to her that I missed reaching out to others. Carla once said she knew she had fallen in love with me when I helped her mother, a lady I hardly knew at the time, after Carla's father died. But it's been so long since I've helped someone, Sweetie. I wouldn't know how to get started. Bright and early the next morning, Sweetie woke up by licking my face. When we took a little stroll down the street, she waddled like a baby hippo up to our neighbor John. I noticed he'd gotten up in years. John got to talking to me about my new dog, and next thing I knew, I was helping him change the oil on his old Lincoln and promising to help him pick apples and take to the screens off his windows. That got me feeling so good that I started giving Carla a hand around the kitchen and making more of the household decisions. Before long, I was taking Ashley to her ball games at school. My therapist was proud when I told him I had accepted an invitation out to dinner with friends. Thanks to Sweetie, I was no longer retreating to a dark bedroom during family get-togethers either. All Sweetie wanted was to be next to me, and being with her was pure joy. Time stopped whenever I was with her, whether it was going to the backyard and filling our birdhouses with Sweetie jumping for joy at the cardinals and doves, or simply taking out the garbage on Tuesday mornings. Sweetie was with me all the way, step for step. Sweetie was so patient and caring, qualities I usually attribute to people, not dogs. Sometimes it seemed like she eavesdropped on conversation, then took the information she gleaned to encourage me. Because of that, little by little, I opened my heart to the love that had been around me all along. People say I saved Sweetie's life, but I tell them, Sweetie saved mine. I later learned that Carla had asked God for a miracle so she could have her old husband back again, and that's exactly what He gave her. God sent a miracle in the form of the most unconditionally loving dog ever. It's very, very depressing when this story reminds me so much of myself, because I went into a really bad depression when Dottie died. I had her as well since she was born, since she was a puppy. I could hold her in my hand and feed her with an eyedropper. That's how small she was. She thought I was her mom. She had very, very bad separation anxiety. She'd go crazy when we had to leave her here. We were best friends. When she died, it took a big, big piece of my heart. I didn't think I was ever going to recover. Some days it's still really, really hard. Like I said, I just recently stopped sleeping with her ashes. I would take her with me to town and everything. It's just, I was in a deep, deep depression. But I'm better now.